responsible for engaging with some of our most engaged users, really. Some of the smartest folks that use the Notion tool.
This is Francisco Cruz Mendoza, the global lead for community at Notion. He was one of the first employees at Notion, and over the past 4 years, he has helped build one of the most engaged tech communities in the world.
I remember the website went down. So I started on Tuesday, and on Monday, the whole website went down.
He has seen firsthand how Notion went from a small startup with a passionate user base to now a global company with more than 100 million users.
I even there's always the stories that he would always check through all of the feedback that was coming in through email. Like he just would read through all of it, check Twitter threads.
Which makes him the perfect person to talk to about how it feels to work at Notion and how you can also become a part of this amazing community. So in this episode, you'll learn how the growth to 100 million users has changed Notion.
I remember a time when we all sat together at the same lunch table, but now it's very, very different.
How the amazing Notion community came to be.
I think Notion has the kindest community on the web. It's something that is absolutely unreal.
How you can also join the Notion community.
The number one thing we're always looking for is excitement.
And the most surprising thing about the Notion community.
The unexpected things, the truly unexpected things are always so wild to me.
So yes, maybe we start with, what's your 2-minute life elevator pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Francisco Cruz Mendoza. I've been in community for over a decade now. And I started working in tech when I was about 19 years old. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to go into technology. And started going to a lot of 3 different networking events, and then finally kind of found an opportunity where I was able to kind of work with folks. So I've been in the startup world for most of my life. I truly enjoy the work that I do. It's something that kind of brings me the most passion. People get frustrated when I'm working on weekends, but I promise you it's because I enjoy what I do. Sometimes it gets a little bit busy, but overall, it's something that's truly a big passion of mine. I often see athletes that kind of just never stop playing, whatever sport they're doing, and it's kind of the same with me. So I feel very, very fortunate for that. But outside of work, when I find some time, I'm really into audio. So, I'm really into sound. So I chase good speakers. I chase whatever concert there is nearby. If I'm ever traveling, it's either for work or for music. I rarely travel for myself, which is something I need to change. But those are the two things that really kind of, get me up and going. But I truly, again, just love the things that I do with the amazing team here at Notion.
Amazing. That's so cool. And I would love to hear a little bit more. What is it that you do at Notion, and how do you explain to others? If you meet someone at a dinner for the first time and they ask you, what's your job? Yeah, how would you explain your profile?
Okay, that's a great question. And the answer has changed over time. Again, I've been in community for over 10 years. And when I first started, a lot of times people thought I was an apartment manager, like the front desk at an apartment. And people were like, oh, so do you set up events for the community? I was like, not quite. So kind of, but something else. Typically, when I talk to somebody about it who maybe knows a little bit about tech or a little bit about community management, I just say that I'm responsible for engaging with some of our most engaged users, really. Some of the smartest folks that use the Notion tool, and I create programming for them. But more importantly, I'm here to support them. And that's kind of what I tell folks, outside, who kind of understand what I do. Internally with my friends and family and colleagues, really, I just support a bunch of Notion nerds, which is the best, just because everyone's so excited. I'm always so grateful to meet people. So I'm really here just to help. But yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, just working with a bunch of Notion nerds, it sounds like a dream job description.
Yeah, it really is the best. You would know. Yeah, you'd get it.
Yeah. They're amazing people. Oh, nice. So, and you've been with Notion for a while now, right? I think you joined Notion nearly 4 years ago. How many blocks do you have on your Lego figure?
I hit 4 years this December. So I'm just about hitting the 4-year mark. I was just getting in an argument with somebody in the office during lunch that I thought I was employee 79, but she said she thought she was. So let's just say I was employee 78. Probably the first 100 employees. And it was a really amazing time. It's been absolutely phenomenal. And it's changed quite a bit. I think when I joined, it was an odd time. It was during the pandemic. It was the first job that I had onboarded remotely. I'd done remote work in the past, but it was the first time that I've done that. And very quickly on, I learned it was a very special place. Just the people that were working there, people were really nice. That really surprised me because everyone was so smart and so talented that I was kind of nervous about communicating with folks and just getting around. And everyone was so kind, and that hasn't really changed. I'm so grateful for that because I think Ivan and the team, especially the people team, have done such a good job at like keeping a very high quality bar in terms not only in talent but also culture. So we've been doing our best to kind of keep it, and I think we're closing in on I think 400 or 500, maybe a few like more hundred employees. So for me, it's been a very big change. I really get frustrated that I don't know everybody at lunch. Like I remember like a time when we all sat together at the same lunch table. But now it's very, very different. There's multiple offices around the world, but more friends to meet, more things to do. So it's been an incredible journey, and I've learned so much along the way. Typically, specifically about like branding. I think the Notion brand and how the design is very, very core to the product. So kind of shifts in my perspective there. Also, just like working quickly and innovating. I didn't think companies of the size innovated so quickly. At least internally, it feels like we move fairly fast. And just kind of keeping a high quality bar. I used to work with Camille Ricketts quite a bit, and there was just so much attention to detail, and it continues to be. But it's one of those things where I'm continuously kind of striving as much as I can. But yeah, been an amazing journey, and couldn't do it without the amazing team that I work with. With Emma, Alex, Shark, Nick, and others. So very, very grateful to be here.
Yeah, like the team, like the part of we get to interact with the Redfin community, it's like always a pleasure. They're all such great people, and it's crazy to think, right? Like that what started with like at this point you were number 78, number 79, something around that, and now Notion just crossed 100 million user, like insane trajectory. If you had to pin one or two things where it's say like, okay, this is now really different at Notion today than it was like 4 years ago. Is there something that comes immediately to mind?
Yeah. Before I jump into that, I'll tell you a funny story about the 100 million users. So when the day before I joined Notion, and of course, like I was working all weekend, the weekend before, trying to understand the culture and reading about the website, I remember the website went down. So I started on Tuesday, and on Monday, the whole website went down. And you probably remember this. This is like 2001, late, like coming out of 2020 into 2021. Like it just wasn't really stable, unfortunately. Yes. And I remember just like getting that email and just being like, oh my gosh, like I'm the fall guy. Like I was hired to like be the face of this thing going, they knew it was going to happen. But then the morning I started, and I was like so nervous. It was like our highest usage of Notion ever. And I think it was like, we had like, I don't remember what the specific number was, but it was like a large number, like at the time, and of all the people that we had. And so just like coming out to learning about the 100 million has been absolutely incredible. And of course, I wasn't the fall guy. That's just what happened, and everyone's been so kind and so amazing. But going back to your question, there's been quite a few different things that have changed here at Notion. So I'll start with some of the positives. So when I first joined Notion, talking about kind of things weren't stable, the team kind of took a step back. And it was just like, hey, like we're gonna pause our features. We're gonna pause a lot of like the non-crucial features, non-crucial updates, and we're gonna focus on stability. Like this product needs to be stable, because we were getting these messages. And one also interesting kind of like little tidbit here is that Ivan, like there's always the stories that he would always check through all of the feedback that was coming in through email. Like he just would read through all of it, check Twitter threads. First of all, he still does that. Like I have sat next to him at lunch, and like his phone will just be pinging, and it's all just like Zendesk tickets. So like when he's bored, like when he has a little bit of time, he's literally going through like various tickets. So like every once in a while, like I'll get tagged in like, hey, Francisco, can you look into this? I don't know, it'll be like 8:00 on a Saturday. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And, I'll jump in, I'll help out wherever I can. But like he truly cares about the product. And I think the like just Notion as a company really does too. So kind of going back to it, like, it just wasn't very stable. So the company kind of took a step back, started really investing into engineering, really investing into the product itself, the infrastructure of the back end, making sure that things were stable. Because again, we were getting this feedback from people that, like, hey, my entire life is in here, right? We hear about second brains, we hear about all these different things, like it's all in there. So when things go down, we hear all about it. So I think that the team kind of took a step back, really invested in infrastructure. And when I was early days there, that's what was really going on, which was kind of rough, right? Because then ambassadors were asking me and our community was like, hey, what's going on? Like, you're just kind of sticking around the same. And other competitors at the time were kind of like, doing their own thing. And they're asking like, well, what are you going to do about this? And it's like, really like, hey, we're just focused on what we're focused on right now. We're trying to making sure that this is a lot more stable and things are like more robust. You kind of fast forward to today, and it's like we have the summer of launches, is what we're kind of calling it internally, where like we have so much coming out so many features that even for me as like, one of the community managers, like, keeping up has been like kind of hard, which is a great problem, right? It's a great problem that there's so many features that you can't keep up. But I think that's been a massive change. The engineering team has kind of matured over time,
Mm.
and we're just like, like putting so much more out and like being able to connect a lot more with the community and being able to like react more to feedback, make changes here and there. I think has been really, really nice because in the early days, it was a lot harder, right? The team was so much smaller, less than 100 people. So I think that's one of like the really, really positive changes. One of the things that's been a bit challenging to kind of get used to is I mentioned earlier, I don't know everybody. I really enjoy,
Yeah.
like, I've always been in startups. I'm a scrappy startup guy. Like, I love being in like the mess of it all and the chaos and everything. I really just thrive in that environment. That's all I know. I started working when I was 19 in a startup, and that's all I've really ever known. So right now, one of the things that has been kind of challenging is I just don't know everybody and I don't know everything that's going on. And I remember in the early days of
Mm.
Notion, like I knew everything that was happening. I knew everybody that was, there. So when we had lunches, we went out. Like it was such a cool, kind of close, tight knit, um, community, even just internally, that I think now it's a little bit different. But the good news, kind of like I mentioned earlier as well, is that they're so good about keeping up with culture. It's almost as
Mm.
important as like, it is as important as like the talent that we have. So
Yeah.
I think that maybe maybe the internal teams are a little larger, but there's also a lot more opportunity to meet with other folks. You have a lot more support, and you're able to just to kind of like meet others in different offices. You were just I know in the Dublin office, and like
Yeah.
every office has its vibe, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
But still feels notiony, but local vibe as well, which has been great.
Yeah, the office looks amazing, right? Like it's a piece of art, just like the software. So you can really like feel that, like like beautiful software is being built there. But that's so interesting. Maybe before we jump like a bit deeper into community, just if you have like a few thoughts on it, would be really interested to hear like what you if you had to like pick a few things. Is there anything in terms of like culture where you say, oh, that's what Notion does, and that's what like makes the culture here so much better, or like really really good?
Yeah. There's a couple of different things. One of our big internal values is like being an owner of the mission. So like people that really
Mm.
kind of like care about what's going on within their own projects or the product, and I think people really care at Notion. I think there's like everybody kind of like knows what they need to do for the most part. I feel like one of those things where there's always like kind of some variables where it's like, okay, like how are we going to shift in this direction where like we kind of adapt as we go. But for like the knowledge or whatever they're brought on to do, like everyone comes like very prepared, which is really, very nice. But everyone's very humble. Like even though we have such sharp
Mm.
people, even though we have such talented people, like everyone's so humble and so kind. Like I can basically take up a meeting with anybody. And Ivan, he's gotten a lot busier lately, and the co-founder Simon and Ivan and others have gotten much busier. But like, when they're in the office, like, and they don't have a meeting, a lunch meeting, like they're just hanging out with us. They're sitting amongst the tables with us. We're getting together. We're breaking bread, and I think that hasn't really changed, which is something that really kind of means a lot to me. And I can really reach out to anybody, like not feel silly about it. In other companies, I
Mm.
remember like when we reach out to leadership or certain people, I'd get nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to reach out to this person, but at Notion, we have this culture of kind of like openness and kindness and just being able to help one another out, which I think goes really far, and I really truly appreciate that sort of thing. So that's something that's very, very special about the culture. And everyone's just generally excited. I'm working very hard to try to like make sure to surface a lot more of the community love here at Notion,
Mm.
just because like I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes you get so bought into your project and like when you're in it, how it is, Matthias. Like you do automations, like it's so hard to see, and like there's just so much going on, and you're focused on all the things that are going wrong because you need to fix them, right? That's your responsibility. That you kind of forget, like, oh right, like there's this product that everybody loves and everyone thinks is amazing. And I think when we share those kind of stories and everything else, it keeps that like great attitude, here at Notion, and just like the overall optimism, which is very, very great.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's like similar with like sometimes with like doing YouTube or content in general, right? Like because it's a very one way communication most of the
Yeah,
time. Like
yeah.
it's very rare that I get to like talk to somebody these days, which like I absolutely love that. But most of the time, you just speak into a camera. So whenever someone comes up at an event or at the Notion offices or so, like I watched a video of yours that was really really cool. It just always makes my day because it's very different, right? If you get to put a face and a person to it rather than just like some numbers of users or views. So I know what that means. I'm happy to hear that like there are more ways now to how the rest of the team hears all about
Oh
from
yeah.
the community.
Yeah, and I mean, we just had
Amazing.
the a gathering in Dublin, and I was talking to Slim, who actually mentioned you by name, and it's like, oh, I met Mateus,
Yeah.
and it's so great because like, one of the things she said, and this will stay between us, just me and you, and whoever listens, but it was just like it's just incredible because like these ambassadors have like way more like knowledge of actually using the tool than like any of us engineers. I'm like, yeah, so now you know why my imposter syndrome is so bad. Because every time I think I've like learned, I'm like, oh, I'm in a good place. I'll get on a call with Mateus, and it's like I don't know anything. So it's always like one of those, and it's a beautiful thing, right? Because it kind of keeps us on top of it, keeps us innovating, and we're always being so inspired by the community. Like again, the community has been such a big part of Notion from the very beginning, but like it's still such a big part of everything we do, and just never ends like to continuously inspire the wider team.
Yeah, I think that's a good point and a good segue for our next question because I think like a lot of people would agree, right, that community at Notion is probably one of the secrets to like the insane success that you had over the last year. So maybe you can take us back a little bit to like the early days of the community, like how it started, whether there was any plan or like how did this Notion community come to life originally?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I wish I could tell you like there's been this huge, crazy plan for day one. We knew exactly what we were doing, but no, like people really just like I think gravitated towards it, and a lot of it was very organic. So I always talk about Ben, but the true like original community builder was actually Ivan, the founder. Ivan has always from the very beginning been on like Twitter threads, email threads, like support tickets from day one. And I think the users in the community kind of took notice to that because basically Ivan would be responding to people on Twitter, kind of like personally working on bugs or personally trying to like shape different features that people were talking about across the web, and then like would like kind of fix something or update something, and then like go back and tag the person or go back and email the individual that had written in. And again, another very big kind of value that we had internally here is like feedback is a gift, and it's something that we
Mm.
kind of learn at Notion pretty quickly on to kind of be open to feedback. And I feel like the quicker you are open to feedback and the quicker you are to like kind of like adapt to how you work, really makes a massive difference. And Notion is another kind of big lesson that I've learned. I haven't particularly always been the best with feedback, not because like I get angry or whatever, or you go like it's always like shoot, like I need to be doing better, like man, like I should have known this, but really it's just a way to continuously improve. And I think that gathering that feedback from the community has always been important to Ivan. And kind of what they took notice was that people were kind of like taking it to the next level, right? They were on product
Mm.
hunt, releasing like talking about these communities that we're building, and people were coming together and just like talking about how they love using Notion. And I think the true like first person really focused on the community here was Ben Lang, who basically had created a kind of just a place for people to share notes around Notion and how they use Notion. And, the team took notice and actually onboarded him as a contractor initially and asked him to kind of build out the community. So, they're building out the community. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to Japan. I might be getting like either it's like right after the community was built or right before. Basically, we noticed that they were having in-person events. People were getting together in Tokyo. People were getting together in New York City. And so while they were building out the program in like the early days, like they're just like, oh, I guess people are getting together, and they like send them a couple of stickers or whatever, and really, I'd love to say that like we had this grand plan, but we were just kind of meeting people where they're already at, like nobody expected that people were just going to naturally, organically come together and meet and have these meetups, right? Like
Mm.
typically there's a big plan behind it. You got to have like a lot of resources and everything else. I've been doing this for years, and people kind of doing it on their own. So like a couple of things. Number one, I think what Ben Lang did an amazing job at, and this is something I think it's really important for any community builder out there, is the first 10 people you invite to your community or the very first batch you invite is so, so crucial to how the
Mm.
program kind of runs moving forward. I think Ben did an amazing job at finding people that really embody kind of like the Notion values and kind of those
Mhm.
early days of like what the community is built up of. And I always like to say that I think Notion has the kindest community on the web. It's something that is like absolutely unreal. I've been in community for a long time, and yeah, I play Call of Duty, and I know the Call of Duty community, and it's a whole different ballgame. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. So I think in the early days, Ben, when he first brought on those first original 10 folks, like he was very careful about how he selected them. And I think the community itself kind of fostered, itself as it grew, right? You're in the ambassador community today. There's so many amazing people in there that kind of, keep the culture alive, help kind of bring on new people and make sure they understand. And like Ben Borowski, we have, Marie Pullen has been there for a long time. And someone kind of like Thomas Frank, Sean Wildenfree, and Camille Blanchard again, like in early days, like made such a big difference to kind of how we operate today. But in addition to that, again, kind of like we always just followed what the community was doing. Initially it was just a bunch of like people that love Notion and just want to talk about Notion to each other and get together around it, and then and so like. We created a community space for that, and then like people were kind of really hosting events, so we kind of created a very general events guide, and then all of a sudden people were just like, yeah, so I went to this event and I spoke, and then all of a sudden some company wanted me to do stuff for them. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help you out. And then they started paying me, which is weird. And like, and then like, so then like people became consultants, and then we kind of like adapted the consultant program. And then people were like, oh, we created a solution for, for this company. And I just, other people asked me for that solution. So I made a template and I started selling it and I'm making money. So then the template creators kind of came around. So really what we've been doing is kind of adapting to what the community is already doing on its own naturally. Obviously, like, we have some sort of, creative programming, or we kind of like to help folks into certain directions. But overall, it's one of those things where we're really listening to kind of feedback and just doing our best to kind of support and, make it as easy as possible to be able to continue to, help the communities with what they're already interested in doing. So that's been a big portion of it. But yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear, and I agree. I think like I'm also like still so fascinated every time when we host an event with our local community here in Berlin, that on a Thursday evening at 7 p.m. after work, people choose to do this, right? There are a lot of things you can do in Berlin at night.
Yeah.
But they choose to come there, like half an hour, 45 minutes by train, get together in a room and talk about software, right? Like how many other tools do you know where people like voluntarily, like they want to talk about it? It's not like, come because you get, free goodies, or, like we have, we can sell you something. No, there's nothing there. You just get to talk to other people who are also interested in Notion. I mean, I can't go there, right? Like I want to talk to other people, but it still blows my mind that you find enough people to do these things.
Yeah, no, and like, sometimes I go to these events, right? And, we had the Berlin Summit last year, and I was recently in Latin America, and people are always like, they'll come up to me like, oh, thank you so much for the community. Like, thank you so much for all that Notion does. And it's like, no, dude, thank you all. Like, thank you so much. Like, every time I go out, like, we're with the team, I'm always just like, hey, everybody, like, we're out here, meeting with the community, and like we really just have to like bring the very best of us that we can, especially when we're in person, especially when we're having an event, because without them, I just, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today. And I truly am so passionate about the work that I'm doing. I mean, so is Emma, so is Alex, and everyone else on the team. And so like when I meet these people, it's like, oh, I'm so honored to meet you. They always tell me all the time, like, no, I'm honored to meet you. Like, this is for you. Like, I am working for all of you here. This is an opportunity for me to be able to kind of meet face to face and just, thank you for all that you're doing. Because exactly, like, how many other, companies in the world have a community just want to get together around, how they're using the product? And of course, it's much bigger than that, right? Like, I think like a lot of people, sure, it's a SaaS product, but like they're planning their weddings, they're planning their wardrobes, they're planning their life, they're having their second brains on it. So it's very personal and it's very special to them. So when we show up to events or I'm meeting people in person, like I do my very best to try to be, as like supportive and as present as possible, because really, this is what it's for. We're doing this for our users, our community, and our different customers around the world.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like it's a ton of fun. So I'm very happy that the community exists.
Yeah.
Maybe like speaking of the community and maybe more of the formal parts of it, right? So like there's so many informal ways to engage with it, right? There's like Reddit, there's Twitter, there's the local meetups, but you now have like also like a few more formal ways of how someone can join the Notion community. And oftentimes, though, when I talk to people, like they might not know about them, right? So I think now might be a good opportunity to quickly run down the list of what are the different ways how you can get officially quote unquote involved with the Notion community. If you could tell us something.
Yeah, I'll give like a fairly general answer because it really is general. A lot of times people will come to me like, "Hey, how many followers do I need?" or like, "How many template posts do I need?" Like, no, there's like an exact number. Really, look, number one thing we're always looking for is excitement. Like people that are genuinely excited to be using the product, genuinely excited to kind of be working on different things, and just excited to kind of be jumping into it all or meeting other people, meeting other community members. I think is one of the things that we truly appreciate when we see that the genuine excitement. But yeah, we have a few different programs. It's grown quite a bit. So I'll kick off with the ones that I know best. So number one is the ambassador program, which Mateus is a part of, and really it's kind of just like some of the most engaged and enthusiastic Notion users from around the world. These are people that are creating content, courses, videos, setting up in-person meetups or online communities, and really just kind of like pushing the product to its limit in the best way possible. And basically for the master program, it's a great way to kind of meet others like that. And so Gregory program, currently it's being run by Alex Witowski, who recently joined like 3 or 4 months ago, but it feels like a year already. He is absolutely world class.
He's amazing.
He's the best. And I'm so excited for him to kind of take it to the next level. There's so much there. So that's been really exciting. After ambassadors, we launched the champions community, which is something that I'm focusing a little bit more on these days. And essentially it's just built for people that are using Notion professionally. So if you're working in a large company, let's say something like Figma, and you're working with other folks and other team members, this is a great community for you to kind of come in and learn from other folks that are using it on kind of like a business or enterprise plan. It's really a great place to kind of ask those questions that maybe you can't always get, asked on Reddit. Because if you're working in a 500 person company and you're asking about how do I roll this out, Reddit is maybe not the best place. So in this community, you kind of meet other folks within within a similar space as you are, and also get a lot more tailored everybody resources to kind of be able to roll these plans out to your user, to your team members, and everything else in between. And of course, I'm so sorry, on the ambassador program, a lot of the resources are around kind of helping support our community builders, build community. So there's a grant program to help them kind of host their own events and betas that are very, very exclusive and very early on. So that's exciting to be able to kind of support. The third program that we launched was the Campus Leaders Program, which is run by Emma Yit, who I think right now is one of the world's best community builders out there, just constantly innovating. And it's for university students. So if you're a university student using Notion, you have at least a year left of school and want to meet other, leaders on campus and kind of be able to host and kind of share how to use Notion to maybe excel in your schoolwork, study, and also kind of find internships and future opportunities. It's an amazing program to be a part of, and just always constantly innovating. We just onboarded our latest batch, and I think they're going to be submitting for events starting tomorrow. So a lot of exciting stuff. You'll be able to see much more coming down the pipeline there. And of course, we have our template creators community, which is helped run by Sam Catania. And it's just a great place for people that are creating templates, kind of taking it to the next level, understanding how others are doing it, how to best kind of amplify the work that you're already putting out, and also getting some early features and sneak peeks for things to come, almost some additional perks. And then there's, I think consultant programs a little bit more tight knit, but essentially it's a place where folks who are consultants can kind of meet with one another and just talk about how they're conducting business and everything else in between. But yeah, that was a lot. There's a lot of great applications. Notion.so /community is the best place to kind of go and check it out. But yeah, we're always here to support and welcome you the best we can.
Yeah, and we'll link to all the resources down below because, as you said, it's a long list. It's grown a lot, so sometimes it can be a bit confusing where to go. But yeah, there's so many different things now, and it's really cool. Just pick whatever I think is the one that's closest to how you use Notion most of the time, and you'll find an amazing community there to help you along. Really cool. let's say you take it from there, and then to another question that I get quite often, and that's like pretty much whenever we announce another event in Berlin, it's like, well, I would love to organize an event in, you know, my city, but I'm not an ambassador, so I guess I can't, organize an event. And I always tell them, no, you don't have to be, you know, Notion ambassador to start an event. Actually, it's one of the best ways to become a Notion ambassador, to just, you know,
Yes.
start hosting events. So maybe, you know, you could walk us through that a little bit. Like, you know, if I'm, you know, in a city where there's no Notion community yet, like, what would be some great ways to get started? Maybe put together like a first small event there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think as long as you're excited about using Notion and you want to meet others who are maybe out there, I think it's the most important thing. Sometimes people get really ambitious with their first plans. Like, I want to have an event with 100 people and I want to have like this really great venue and it's awesome food. I would say start small. I think getting together and meeting people and understanding how, like, what the interest is first, sending out an email, sending out a little bit of a, just some general marketing just to say like, hey, is anyone interested? Like, I think that's the very best way to do it. Meeting up in a cafe, small coffee shop and that's how the original events kind of began. But really it's just about there's like three things you really need, to kind of put for any sort of community event. Number one thing is, like the content, or like, what do you want to talk about, or what is the general, plan for this gathering. It could be as simple as meeting in a coffee shop and just talking about how you use Notion, or, they're setting an event where someone's going to come and speak and talk a little bit about more how they personally use Notion and kind of take it to the next level. So once you have your content, then you just need a date, what day of the week or what day of the month are you going to be putting this together? And then a venue, where are you going to be hosting? So, and there's a lot of different places you can kind of do it. Early on, a lot of people held it in their offices, or they went to a local coffee shop. Universities are also another great place. But you'd be very surprised. I think the first goal for any event really should be kind of like, how could I meet with the Notion community? Oftentimes when I go out and travel, people are so grateful that I'm there because they're like, I had no idea so many people use Notion. And like, my partner is sick of hearing about how excited I am about it, or the new feature that came out, or like what's going on. So being able to kind of get together and just meet these people in person, like, makes all the difference. So I think those are the most core important things. Keep it simple, and the first event is always the hardest. After that, it only gets easier. And Matthias, I think you would probably, that sounds pretty fair, right? First one's always the toughest one, and it gets easier from there.
Yeah. Fully agree. We also have like a few free resources on how to organize the first event. We'll also link that below in case you want to get started. And otherwise, you can always, like, ask one of the other ambassadors that has already organized events. Usually, if we have time, like, we're more than happy to help with that. So,
absolutely
amazing. Going from there maybe to the next part, or like the other, maybe unexpected, results of the community. Is there anything, that stands out to you as like a very surprising or unexpected side effect or outcome from, this like crazy Notion community?
Oh, of course. Okay, I'll give you the real answer and the PR answer. So I'll give you the real answer. And they're both honest. They're both very true. The real answer is just like the unexpected things. The truly unexpected things are always so wild to me. So I was just in Latin America. We did a Latin American roadshow with Jose Carlos, Roxana, and a few other ambassadors from across the region, Sebastian. And I was in Bogota. I was in Colombia, and we got picked up by this amazing group of ambassadors, and they were telling us just the wildest stories. So essentially, they all met at one of the first Notion community events in Colombia. I believe Roxana put together, and so it was this group of people that basically, like, we met at an event. It was really, really great, and then like we started, we started thinking about like how can we become business partners, and then all of us needed to move out, so we actually all moved into the same building, and so they all moved into the same building, and they all started a business together, and now they have like matching Lego tattoos. And like, it's just like things like that. It's just absolutely unreal to me, right? And they were also telling me that at one of the events in last year, somebody was presenting on screen, and then at the end of the presentation, the last presentation was a proposal to his now wife, right? Like, he actually proposed at a Notion event. So those kind of stories to me are like
amazing,
just so unexpected and real, and it's just, to me, like, it's so special because it's not about, the product. It's just like so much more. People are creating friendships. People are kind of changing the way they live and kind of for a better way. So those have always been the ones that like really, really kind of like excite me the most and just get me so thrilled. There's a couple of other examples that I've seen previously. Like, I remember I never forget it. It was like my first year. We had a pop up in New York City. So basically, we had kind of like an activation campaign where we just wanted to meet our community in person again, and just like kind of meet our users. And we set up a little coffee cart. It was branded with Notion. We had Notion goodies for free. The line was huge. It was hot. It was summer. It was like a summer in New York where it's humid. It's not the best place to be standing in line for an hour. So somebody was standing in line for an hour, and they get near the front of under the front, and we were giving out coffee, newspapers, bucket hats, like all these cool things. And she was like, "Oh, do you work at Notion?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I work at Notion. Like, how can I help?" And she's just like, "Oh yeah, I just can I show you my workspace?" I'm like, "Yep, of course. I'd love to see your workspace." Granted, I've been doing this for 2 days, and this is like hour number 6, and I've been seeing so many workspaces, but I never get tired of it. People are so excited. So it's like, yeah, sure, I'd love to see it. She had categorized all of her clothing. So every single article of clothing that she owned, she had it in a Notion database. And basically, it's like different views. She was telling me that she would, whenever she went shopping, she would basically go through her digital wardrobe to see if whatever she was looking at was going to work well with whatever she was about to purchase. So like, or which she already had in her closet. So her entire like style and everything else was just categorized in a Notion database, which to me was absolutely unreal. So that was so special. And the wildest part about it was after we're done talking about it, she turns around and leaves. And I was like, don't you want like a coffee or would you like a newspaper? It's like, oh, no, I just wanted to share my work with somebody because I don't ever get the chance to do that. That blew my mind. Just sit down an hour, to go to a coffee activation just to talk to somebody about Notion. So that to me is like the true thing that really catches me off guard. It's absolutely amazing. I think like the answer I give out is also true, but like, just like just something just absolutely unreal is we've had like onboard an ambassador, we go through all the process, and then like I get to see the evolution of them, right? And there's one particular person I have in mind where I remember when they first joined, they were so amazing, and it's Roxana. We've already talked about it, but like basically, like she joined. She's like excited to be on Notion, and then like when she joined, she's like, yeah, I just spoke at an event. I started consulting, and they're paying me, which is really cool. But at the time, she's doing mostly graphic design. And I fast forward to now, and like with like the consulting and templates, everything else, she's now helping build a home for her family in Aruba. So like it's like truly life changing updates that can really kind of change the way people live. And I know like for me and for Ivan, when we hear these sort of things, like it means the world. It really means like like reaching 100 million users is really cool. And a lot of times people like to ask us about like our valuation or IPO or how we're growing, but like the thing that I see that really excites Ivan and really excites the team are stories like that. People whose lives are changing through, the tool that is Notion.
Yeah, that is really cool. I love these stories, and yeah, I think that really encompasses like the like what makes Notion so special, right? That you have these stories attached to it. Oh, I love it. I could talk for hours about like all these things, right? The cool parts of the community. But we're coming up like soon on the end of our time. So maybe just like 2 last questions more towards the future of community. So first I would just love to hear maybe if you have any insights that you can share right on the near future, where there are any upcoming changes to how Notion plans on running community, or anything in that direction maybe.
I'm really in the weeds right now for these sort of things. So I just spent, I'm based out of San Francisco, but I came out to New York, spent like 3 months with the team, and the summertime, it slows down a little bit. And we're able to kind of really invest into the actual community itself and kind of just like, bumping up for fall when all the events are coming in. So what I'd say there is something that I'm really excited about right now. It's just like, we're really trying to make sure, we're creating programming that is very helpful for the community, right? Things that are very like interesting to them, and making sure we're having like, we're adapting to like the needs. So I think a lot of more people want to meet locally and regionally. So we've kind of been investing a lot more in some of our regional teams and how can we offer more regional support. And, Kumami in Japan has been absolutely amazing with Ayame, along with Mizuki helping out with champions, Jai-sun and DS out in Korea are doing absolutely amazing work, and Yon and EMEA. So we're trying to kind of almost like localize a little bit more because our community is so global that sometimes people can feel left out. Understandably so, because of language barriers or time zone barriers. Like there's so many things, so many complexities that come with a global community. So we're investing a lot more there. Another thing that we're really trying to do is, we do a lot with our community, and we were just talking about this, Mateus, beforehand. Is we just had this summit in Dublin, and we sent out a little bit more of our team members than usual, and they were able to meet the community in person, and I just had the most amazing feedback. They were so excited to meet people in person. These are people that have also been with the company for about 4 years or more. And they just came back so energized because they see the love that people have for it. I think when you're working on a product, it gets so easy to get stuck in the weeds of what you're working on. Everything that could be better is wrong. And when they come back, they're always so thrilled every time we have an event. So I'm trying really hard to bring the stories and surface the stories of the community more often to the wider team here at Notion, and also experience like the community itself in person, in different events globally. So that's something that we've been trying to do as much as we can of a lot more. And another kind of like byproduct of that is just feedback. Like we're really trying to tighten the loop of how feedback is processed at Notion. So like, a lot of times, and I get it, like there's offline mode. I know. Trust me, like we're aware of it. It's not like something like we're not.
I didn't say it.
Yeah, of course. Every time I bring it up to you about, they're like, oh, you said it on me. But we totally understand, and it's something that like we're definitely looking into. But like the community has always shaped Notion, right? And we have it's always been something that it has been a big part of who we are. And I kind of want to tighten that feedback loop. I really want to make sure that we're getting the feedback that we need. In the past, the team was just only so big, so it was just me like, like this is what people need. Like, please help us. And now we have amazing members in the community like Alexis, who has kind of been tightening that feedback loop, incorporating it more into how we work. And the team is just simply larger. We have the bandwidth to kind of create more formalized ways to kind of collect some of this intake. And I think that especially you, Mateus, you've seen kind of ambassadors like run around the community or the company a lot more, right? There's more opportunities, we're kind of working together a lot more. So I think, and it's not like a straightforward answer, but in general, we're trying to embed the community even more than ever into how we kind of like, process feedback, shape the product, and even just kind of, announce a lot of these things moving forward. So I think community is just like, as always, it continues to become closer and closer to Notion and the product itself. So I'm very excited for what's to come. I'm very excited for a lot of the betas that are coming along, a lot of the upcoming features. And, you're smiling because, you've heard a couple of things here and there. So there's, the summer of launch has been exciting, but man, somehow the fall, it seems equally or even more exciting for what's to come. So I'm very thrilled with, where the community is at right now.
Oh, me too. And I can't wait to see like all these things in the wild that I've heard rumors about. So very, very exciting. Amazing. Awesome. That maybe not just like a fun little one to close this off, but that would be like, Notion has so much amazing merch. Like, I love every single bit I can get my hands on, but would really love to hear like, what is your single favorite piece of Notion merch that you've ever seen?
Yeah, there's a lot. Emma, hopefully, eventually one day she'll listen to this. But yeah, like me and Emma just like are always getting like, no, it has to be this or it has to be that, or like, how are we going to figure it out? I've been working on merch here at Notion since I started. I used to do merch for for my previous company. I was working at Startup Grind and Bevy, and I used to do all their t-shirts and different, and like the wristbands and everything else. And I don't know how I ended up like, jumping into it. I think it's also like, people don't realize how much work goes into it, especially at a company like Notion. Like I have been working on an item right now for at least 8 months. And it's just like revision after like, edit. And I'm working with an amazing vendor. We work with Swag Up, and I've been working, Nicole, our has been absolutely amazing. Partner of ours, we're always kind of trying to innovate. There's a couple of different things. And when I first joined Notion, they were like really, really serious about it. They're like, hey, it has to be something that is useful. Like we are a software, company, but we make tools. So like it has something that is useful or something that could be like, like worn. It cannot create too much, waste. So like in terms of like plastic or what have you, like, it has to be something that we're not like, negatively impacting the environment, or at least reducing it as much as we can. The other thing is just like the quality bar, right? Like at Notion, there's a certain quality bar, and like we want our goodies to kind of reflect that. So, which is awesome, right? It's really great, but it takes a long time to make things, because, when you got to meet all those three things and you're very serious about it, like it takes some time. So, in terms of things that I'm most excited for, or have been, there's two items. we had this like Notion cat blanket. I love cats. Thankfully, Roman. Yeah, there's a lot of dogs in the Notion office. There's tons of dogs. There is no cats, which is great. I love dogs. They're absolutely amazing. I love all animals. But I just, I have an affinity for cats, and Roman does too. Our one of our lead artists. And we made this gorgeous, gorgeous blanket, this thick blanket. It has like a giant little kitten on it, and I just love it. It goes so well with the office and everything else in between. So that's probably like my actual physical favorite, merch item. My favorite thing really is though, like the story around it is like the bucket hat. The bucket hat, although maybe not as popular as it once was, I truly love, and the reason is because I don't have the best work-life balance. Again, because I love what I do. It's not because no one's forcing me. Everyone tells me to take a break, but I was at Coachella, and I forgot who was playing. Someone was about to get on. I think it was like maybe I was thinking of Tyler, the Creator, at that point, and like I'd been at my tent just working the whole morning, all day Friday. And so I was in a tent and I have this like hotspot set up, like everyone's partying around me. I'm just like trying to get these goodies for this Latin American roadshow we were doing last year. And I remember like finishing and like being done. And then like I was going back to go see Tyler the Creator. And then I get a call. I was like, oh my gosh, we forgot one last thing. You like, can you help us with some? Of course. Ran back to camp, jump on my laptop, right? And like start like, hashing it out. And I remember, again, creating these goodies. And I remember like shutting my laptop when I was done, and I'm like, am I really like doing this right now? Like, is this really what I like? This isn't healthy. Like, I shouldn't be doing this, And like, I remember it really kind of bugged me. So I went in, and it's like 1 a.m. I'm at Yuma, and for anyone who hasn't been to Coachella, it's like the techno tent, and it's like basically really good subwoofers, really good sound. And it's still bugging me. I'm like, man, I gotta slow down. Like, this is ridiculous. And every time, someone walked by with a bucket hat, I always look at it. It's like, it'd be so funny as a Notion hat. And then it's like 1:30 in the morning. I think the Blessed Madonna is playing. I look up, and there it is. It is the bucket hat. Not only is it a Notion bucket hat, but it's a Notion bucket hat from Tokyo. We had like these bucket hats we gave out in Tokyo during our pop-ups, or like during the events around them. And there it was in front of me. And it was like, no. The work that I'm doing is totally worth it. I will continue to push it as long as I need to. So that's why the bucket hat's one of my favorite items. Like, I'll never forget it. Like, seeing somebody wear that, something that we worked so hard on, just like floating around at Coachella, like, was a very, very special and magical moment for me. So, the bucket hat's great.
I loved it. I think that's a perfect story to end this on, like the bucket hat at Coachella. I love it. I have mine sitting here in the background.
Oh,
like,
nice.
Always handy. I can't pull it off, but like it's at least like a reminder. But that's so cool. Amazing. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time and for having this conversation. I could go on for another 2 hours. Hopefully we do around 2 at some point. But yeah,
absolutely.
Again, thank you so much for this and all the things that you do for the community, right? Like it's absolutely insane to get to work with people that are so passionate about it, and like the company taking the people around it that don't work, but that they take it so seriously. So yeah, it's really a privilege.
Oh, of course. No, it privilege is all ours. And truly, I thank you, Mateus, for all the amazing work that you're doing. The community, anyone who's listening who uses Notion, thank you so much. Like, I'm here you're my boss. I'm working for all of you. So any chance you have any feedback or anything that we could be doing better, please let us know. And again, we truly thank you from the bottom of my heart.
So much for my interview with Francisco. Personally, I love a look behind the scenes and to hear directly from the people who work at Notion. Which is why I was super thrilled when I recently got to meet Akshay, the co-founder of Notion. It was a really interesting conversation, and I highly recommend you check it out next. Just click here, and I'll see you in a few seconds.